That's going in.
What's good, YouTube? This is Russell here. Just another video from Scatter Report. We just got back from San Diego Regionals and I got 4th place with Towa. So this is the 3rd event that I've used Towa at, 3rd top with Towa. Again, came really close to taking it all home, but it fell just a little short once again. A little bummed about that, but overall it was a great weekend. I just really like playing this deck. It's the only deck that's ever made me want to play it more than once, besides obviously my boy Super 17. But Bandai had to hit that before I could ever play it again. But Bandai hasn't hit this yet, so I'm gonna keep playing this until Bandai hits it or doesn't hit it. I don't think it's that oppressive. Maybe it will get hit one day, but not anytime soon. But yeah, this is Towa. For anybody that doesn't know, on her front side, she bursts 3. And then you get to look at your top 5 cards and take a Mira or a Fu, add it to your hand. And then when you have 10 black cards in your warp, you can untap 1 energy, draw 1 to awaken her. And on her back side, she can take 3 cards from your warp, put it back in your drop, and then pick a Mira and give it critical for the turn. And then you can tap 1 energy during the battle, any battle, to choose 1 keyword skill on your opponent's battle card and take it away. You can't do it on leaders though, which is something that a lot of people forget when they're playing against you. And you see a lot of people be afraid to give their leaders double strike, thinking that you just take it away. And then after the match, you ask them, you're like, why didn't you just like give your leader double strike? And they're like, oh, because you would take it away. And you're like, well, no, I can't. So that's something that people should think about when you're playing against this deck. But getting into the actual deck profile, start things off, we run the 3 Overrealm Miras that discard a card, or 4 3-drop Miras that discard a card. This card is just obviously really good in a lot of matchups, especially when you just want to play slower and you don't really want to attack. You can just like play this out, make them get rid of their hand. It's just a great grind card, puts on a lot of pressure in matchups that you want to be aggro to. This card just pretty much does everything that you need a card to do in this deck. And then we play 3 of the Overrealm Mira and 4 of the 5-drop Mira. So these are the guys that go up your chain. This one is obviously the better one because it has deflect. So, you know, red decks that run like Denial of Hope can't really do anything against this. Bloodlust is at 1, but it's still a card and there's a lot of yellow decks running around. So this gets around that too. But this card's really good and it's actually very important coming into the draft box. This might actually get bumped up to 4 just because we have the new Vegeta counterplay coming out that can give everything -20. So one way to play around it is you could overwhelm this out, and if your opponent plays the Vegeta counterplay to kill this, then you can just go into the 5-drop and then go up the chain. If they don't Vegeta it, then you just go straight up the chain. So this is just a way to play around the new counterplays coming out in the draft box. And then of course we run the 4 big boys. You need to run 4 of these just because you don't want to mill them all or get them stuck in your life and then you just can't do anything with like your 5-drops. Obviously if this is in the warp, you can still go into it with your 3-drops. This is the bread and butter of the deck. This is your win con most of the time. So yeah, real good. And then we have our Towa package. So we run 3 of the Overrealm and 3 of the Dark Overrealm. I see a lot of people cutting down on this card. But this one is actually my favorite. Obviously this one doesn't trigger Vegeta, but to be honest, I didn't really play Vegeta Time Regulator a lot in this tournament just because I played against a lot of really hyper aggro decks. So you didn't really have a lot of time to play down the Time Regulators. But this card, it just, especially in the mirror match, being able to take one of your opponent's cards and then keep a body on board that they have to deal with and it's just constant pressure every turn is really good. Obviously this card's really good in the mirror match too, but it doesn't stay on the board. And especially against like veggies or any of those like blue yellow counterplay decks, this guy can like take the 3-drops or this guy can't. So they both do things that the other doesn't, which is why I like a 3-3 split, just very consistent. And then I run 4 Banisher Fu. This is something that I do pretty differently than most decks. I see most people just run 2 Towas or 2 Fus, but I really like 4 just because I like consistency. I don't like missing off of my leader. And I feel like whenever I need a foo, I see it, you know, so I can charge it or combo it for defense early on. And then any turn that I really do need it, because I run extra copies, I'm probably going to see it off my leader ability. So I just like the utility of having the 4 in deck. And then I run 2 of the Trunks time regulators. I bumped it down to 2 from Pasadena. Obviously this card's still really amazing, but again, just because of the format's kind of changed and it's gotten a little bit more aggro, you're not really able to play down your time regulators like you used to. So the utility with this card isn't the same. It's still there if you need it. It's still a great card to like draw into your time regulators when you need them or anything else that you need. So this card's still really good, but I did cut him down on 2 just to make room for other cards in the deck. And then one of the MVPs of the weekend was definitely the 2 Mass Sane in the mains. U6 is just really popular right now, and this card is just amazing against U6. Even just like red decks, a lot of them run 3 and 2 drops, so he's clearing 2 to 3 cards every time he comes down. So yeah, this card was really good all weekend. And then 2 time regulators. I was running her at 4 for the longest time. I believe I had her at 4 in my Pasadena and Philly build. I'm not sure, I might have cut down to 3 in Pasadena. But this card's just really, really good. Still, it's just at worst, it's just a free draw on your opponent's turn. But a lot of decks are coming at you hard with 3 drops and 4 drops as early as turn 2. So she doesn't have the same utility that she did in the past events that I used her, but she's still a very strong card. And then 4 power bursts. You still need 4 in the main deck just because you need them for the mirror match. There are a lot of aggro decks out there, so being able to just stop the double strikes is obviously really good, and just being able to recycle your time disruptors and other 1-drops in my deck, obviously very strong. And then I ran a small little skill list package of 3 Goku, 3 4-star, and 1 Trunks. So this is all I ran. I didn't run Dimension Support Trunks because I'm not a big fan of that card. I don't like that it costs 1 to combo. It just feels very unneeded in the deck. Honestly, you just run it pretty much for this package. Like these 2 cards here just give you pretty much infinite combo power every turn. So it's like on your opponent's turn, every turn you just get to stop an attack and then add the 4-star back from your drop. And then this guy, you just run 1 of these because you don't really go into him often, but he's there if you need him. So if he's in your deck or your drop, you know, you can grab him out in matchups that you do need him. But it's like, I didn't summon him that many times this tournament, probably like 2-3 times. But the times I did summon him, he was really good. Going forward though, I think I would cut pre-draft box. If you're playing in a tournament before draft box comes out this weekend, I would cut out these 2 and just run these 5. Pretty much every single game 2 and 3, I sided these 2 out and kept these in. I had no issues with just 2 balls in deck. So I would probably cut these 2 for another time disruptor and probably a 3rd Mass Sane, just because U6 is really popular, and Mass Sane was really good for me all weekend. And I sided those 2 cards in a lot, so I'd probably take these 2 out for those 2. And then once draft box comes out, like these 2 could probably be like maybe another time disruptor and the new 7-drop Mira. And then of course the 4 time regulator. Obviously he's still a really good card. You still need him for the instances where you need to recycle back your big mirrors and whatnot. But a lot of times I was siding out 2 of these in a lot of matchups just because a lot of my matchups were, again, very aggro. And you just don't have time to play him out a lot anymore. But you still need to keep some in deck. Like I said, if you mill all your 7-drops and then your 5-drops are dead, you need this to be able to put back the big drops so you don't have to just rely on your 3-drops. So he's still a very good card. And then the last 4 cards in the main deck were the 4 super combos. Nothing to be said about these. That's why I still ran the Overwhelm Trunks over something like the Kai that looks at the top 3, even though time regulator is not as good. When I say not as good, it's still a very good card. But the Trunks just allows to turn these on turn 1, which is really good against all these hyper aggressive decks when you need to save your life early on. So that's the main deck. Going on to the sideboard, I have the third time disruptor, again, just matchups like U6, this would come in, they drop that kill down, and then you just play this, and that's 2 attacks that they don't get. And if they didn't attack with their leader and then they swing, you get to stop 3 attacks on their turn. 2 Kami, again, obviously really good against U6. A lot of times I'd slap this down turn 1, and it basically turns into a blocker because they'll tap it and kill it, and then you can just power burst it back into your hand when they make a board because they think they got rid of your Kami, and then you just kill their board. A lot of people run into that. They just don't think about power burst, and then you add back Kami, and they're like, oh shit. Like, then we had the 3 Dark Power Black Mass Saiyan. This was one of the MVP cards in the sideboard against U6 Kaba especially. You play this down turn 1, and then they just can't play their 2-drop Kale on curve because they just lose too many cards at that point. So it slows them down, and that matchup is all just about slowing them down. You never want to attack Kaba early because if you take them close to 4, they'll just keep taking life until they get down to 1 and have all these cards in hand just like kill you in 1 turn. So you make them take themselves down to 4 and use as much resources as they have to try and kill you. And you just like early turns on, you summon this, play your 3-drop Mira that discards a card of their hand, don't attack them, pass, just really whittle them down. And then once you hit turn 4, it's really hard for them to come back because if you're sitting at a decent life total and you start warping cards out of their hand, there's not much that Kaba can do against you in that. That's pretty much the formula I use against Kaba all weekend, and I never lost that matchup. I know a lot of Towa players think that matchup is hard, but if you practice it, it's actually a pretty easy matchup for Towa. And then I cited 1 Towa Dimension Leaper, just in matchups that like to go big, like Shenron, Gogeta. This is obviously really good against it because if they tap out to do their big guys and you play this and they don't have a way to get rid of it, it stops an attack. And then 2 Heavenly Wizard Demigra. I've been citing this every event just because Baby has always been the one deck I'm scared of, but no, only 1 person at these events has played Baby. His name is Kevin Zuniga, and he's a very good player. And I finally ran into his Baby. He's the only deck I've been scared of at all these events, and I finally ran into it, and he crushed me in top 4. I even drew this card, and he still killed me. That is just a very horrendous matchup for Towa. So going forward, I don't know if I would side this again, just because that matchup is so bad for Towa that I don't think you should waste spots in your side deck. Your really only hope is that they don't draw the combo. And if they don't draw the combo, then this is just dead anyways. But if they do draw the combo, you're just dead anyways, even if you have this in hand. So I think that this is not a good side deck card going forward right now. So this would probably come out. And then the 2 Mercenary Tau, again, mainly for the mirror match, just being able to shut off their 3-drop mirrors. I talk about that a lot in other videos. Still great sideboard card. It hits other random matchups should you run into them. 2 Force Ejection Mass Saiyan. These came in for Shenron Gogeta. I played against 1 and I beat it. This card was really good. It just adds pressure. It stalls them a turn. And it pretty much lets you get 2 to 3 big mirrors off before they're able to do anything. And at that point, that's just too much pressure for them to deal with. And then 1 Power Overseen Time Trunks. This card for Janemba, just because if they mill, you need to see time regulators in that matchup. That's the one matchup still where time regulator is an absolute must. So if they mill it, you grab it back. Going forward, I don't know if I'm going to do this or the new Fu that works in the drop. They both have their merits, so I'm going to definitely test that out when the draft box comes out this weekend. But this card's really good. And then the last card in my side deck was the 3rd Black Mass Saiyan. Going forward, like I said, I probably would have made the 3rd one of this. This card was just amazing all weekend, just clearing boards, making U6 Kaba cry. Yeah, it was real good. So overall, that was the deck profile. Great weekend. Shout out to Core TCG. They put on a great regionals. Shout out to everybody, the dudes, Shenron's Lair, LDS, Suba Playas, anybody I'm forgetting, shout out to you. West Coast events just are a lot of fun. I love going to them, and I will see all of you at Nats.